I was lying on a yoga mat in the equipment storage room of a gym in Brickell at 10 o'clock at night. The door was locked, the lights were dimmed. Marcus was standing over me, his hand on my waist, and he whispered something I'll never forget. We just finished what was supposed to be a training session, but we both knew that wasn't why we were there. My name is Valeria. I'm 30 years old. I live in Miami, and I'm about to tell you something I've never told anyone, not even my closest friends. For 4 months, I had a secret affair with my personal trainer. We met in that storage room after closing time, and nobody knew. Let me back up. This was about a year and a half ago. I'm a realtor here in Miami. Been doing it for 6 years. I love my job. I'm good at it. I make decent money. But at that time, I was coming off a rough breakup. 3-year relationship, lived together, thought we were heading toward marriage. Then I found out he'd been seeing someone from his office for 5 months. I was devastated, not just hurt, but angry. Angry at him, angry at myself for not seeing it. So I did what a lot of women do after a breakup. I decided to get in shape. New body, new life, right? I joined this gym in Brickell, one of those 24/7 places with good equipment and decent trainers. It was early March, right when Miami starts getting hot. I signed up for a package with a personal trainer because I knew I wouldn't push myself otherwise. That's when I met Marcos. First session was on a Wednesday evening, around 7. The gym was moderately busy, music playing, people doing their thing. Marcos walked up to me near the front desk. 34 years old, former Marine, built like you'd expect. Tall, broad shoulders, arms that clearly knew what a weight room was. He had this buzzed haircut, dark eyes, strong jaw. But what got me was how he carried himself. Confident without being cocky. Professional. He shook my hand, firm grip, looked me straight in the eye. He said, quote, 0. We sat down. He asked me questions. Took notes. What did I want to achieve? Did I have any injuries? What was my experience level? All business. I appreciated that. I'd half expected some gym bro trying to flirt. But no, he was respectful, focused, knew his stuff. We did that first session. He showed me proper form, corrected my posture, pushed me, but not too hard. I left feeling good. Sore, but good. The first few weeks were completely professional. I came in 3 times a week, sometimes 4. Marcos trained me. We talked about workouts, nutrition, recovery. He was good at his job. Really good. He knew exactly how far to push me, when to back off, how to keep me motivated. I started seeing results. I felt stronger. My clothes fit better. I was sleeping better. For the first time since the breakup, I felt like myself again. But here's the thing. I started noticing the way he looked at me. Nothing obvious, nothing creepy. Just these moments. When I was doing squats and I'd catch his eyes on me in the mirror. When he'd spot me on bench press and his face was close to mine. When he'd adjust my form and his hands would linger just a second longer than necessary. And I noticed other things too. He'd always make sure he was the one training me, even if another trainer was available. He'd remember little things I mentioned in passing. He'd smile at me differently than he smiled at other clients. I'm not going to lie. I noticed him too, the way his shirt fit across his chest, the veins in his forearms when he demonstrated an exercise, his voice, deep and steady when he counted my reps, the smell of his cologne mixed with clean sweat. I found myself thinking about him outside the gym, wondering if he was single, wondering if I was imagining the tension between us. It was late April when things shifted. I'd been training with him for about 6 weeks. I had a showing that ran late, didn't get to the gym until almost 9 at night. The place was nearly empty. Just a couple people on treadmills, one guy in the free weights section. Marcus was there, finishing up with another client. When he saw me walk in, his whole face changed. He smiled. Not his professional trainer smile, a real smile. He came over and said, "So you won't come in tonight?" I said, "Almost didn't. Long day, but I'm here." He looked at me for a moment, then said, Good. I'm glad. Let's make it a good session. And something in the way he said it made my heart beat faster. We walked out. He pushed me harder than usual. Every time I thought about quitting, he'd say something that made me want to prove myself. And I didn't. I pushed through. By the end, I was drenched in sweat, exhausted, exhilarated. The gym was almost empty now, just us and one other person. Marco said, "You did great tonight, really great." I said, "I'm going to be so sore tomorrow." He laughed and said, "Probably, but it's worth it." Then he paused and said, "Hey, I've been working on some new exercises, core and flexibility stuff. Want me to show you? Won't take long." I should have said no. I should have said I was tired and needed to get home. But I didn't. I said yes. He led me to the back area of the gym near the equipment storage room. There were mats laid out, some resistance bands, stability balls. The lights were dimmer back here. The music from the main floor was muffled. It felt separate, private. He showed me a few stretches, some core exercises. He was standing close, closer than usual, guiding my movements with his hands. His voice was lower. At one point, I was in a plank position and he knelt beside me, his hand on my lower back. He said, quote, 9? I nodded. I couldn't speak. The tension was so thick I could barely breathe. When we finished, we were both just standing there. The last person in the gym had left. It was just us. The night staff was up front. Marcos looked at me, really looked at me, and he said, "Valerie, I need to say something." My heart was pounding. I said, "What?" He ran his hand over his head and said, "I shouldn't be looking at you the way I do. It's not professional, but I can't help it." I knew exactly what he meant. I'd been feeling it too. That pull, that electricity. I looked right back at him and said, quote, 13. He stepped closer. He said, quote, 14. I said, quote, 15. He said, quote, 16. I took a step closer. We were inches apart. I could feel the heat coming off him. I said, quote, 17. He stared at me. Then he reached out and touched my face, just barely, his thumb on my cheek. He said, quote, 18. I nodded. I was sure. I'd never been more sure of anything. He kissed me, right there in the back of the gym. It wasn't gentle. It was hungry. Months of tension breaking all at once. His hands in my hair, mine on his chest. We pulled apart, both breathing hard. He said, quote, 19. I said, quote, 20. He looked around, then at the storage room door. He said, quote, 21. He went to the front, checked something with the night staff, came back. He had keys. He unlocked the storage room, pulled me inside, locked the door behind us. It was dim, lit only by a small window near the ceiling. Shelves of equipment, extra mats, weights, resistance bands. It smelled like rubber and metal and sweat. He spread out a yoga mat on the floor, turned to me, said, quote, 22. I said, quote, 23. And then we were on each other. We didn't leave that storage room for over an hour. When we finally did, the gym was closed, dark except for the emergency lights. We slipped out the back exit, stood in the parking lot under the Miami night sky. He said, "So what now?" I said, "I don't know, but I want to do that again." He smiled. He said, "Wednesday night. Same time. Late session." I said, "I'll be here." That's how it started. For the next 4 months, we had this secret thing. I'd come to the gym late, 2 or 3 times a week. We'd do a legitimate workout first. He was still my trainer, still professional in front of other people. But after closing time, after the gym cleared out, we'd slip into that storage room. Sometimes we'd barely make it through the door before we were all over each other. Other times, we'd talk for a bit, sitting on those mats, and then it would happen naturally. It was thrilling. The secrecy, the risk, the intensity of it, knowing that on the other side of that door, life was normal. But in there, it was just us, Just that heat and hunger and connection. He told me things about his life, his time in the Marines, deployments overseas, why he left, how he ended up training. I told him about my work, my family, my ex, my dreams. We'd lie there on yoga mats surrounded by dumbbells and talk about everything and nothing. But here's the thing we both understood without saying it out loud. This was what it was. We weren't dating, we weren't building towards something. We were two people who wanted each other and were taking what we could in a storage room after hours. No strings, no expectations, just this. The best night, the one I think about sometimes even now, was in early July. It was a Friday, brutally hot outside, the kind of Miami summer heat that makes the air feel thick. I'd had a huge closing that day, made a great commission. I was riding high. I texted Marcus. He texted back. I got to the gym around 9:30. He was waiting. We did a quick workout, but we both knew we were just going through the motions. The gym cleared out by 10. We went to the storage room. He locked the door, turned to me, and I'll never forget what he said. I shouldn't look at you the way I do. It was exactly what he'd said that first night. I smiled and said, quote, 31. That night was different, slower, more intense, like we both knew something was changing but didn't want to admit it. Afterward, we lay there in the dim light, my head on his chest, his arm around me. He said, "This is crazy, you know that?" I said, "I know." He said, "Oh, but I don't want to stop." I said, "Neither do I." But things started getting complicated in August. The gym owner, this guy named Rick, started making comments. Nothing direct, but Marcus told me Rick had asked him why he was always the last one to leave, why the storage room was being used so much, why certain equipment was moved around. Marcus played it off, said he was doing inventory, working on new training protocols. But we both got nervous. We tried to be more careful, varied our times, used the storage room less, but that just made it harder. The whole thrill was the routine, the anticipation, knowing exactly when and where. Without that, it felt strange. Then one night in late August, Rick showed up unexpectedly. We were in the middle of a legitimate training session. Thank God, not in the storage room. But Rick watched us. I could feel his eyes, the way Marcus was with me, the way I responded to him. It was too familiar, too intimate. The next week, Marcus told me he was quitting. He said Rick had pulled him aside, said he needed to maintain professional boundaries with clients. Didn't accuse him of anything directly, but the message was clear. Rick suspected something. Marcus said he couldn't risk his reputation, couldn't risk mine. He was leaving, going to a different gym across town. I was devastated, but what could I say? We weren't together. We had no claim on each other. He gave his 2 weeks' notice. We tried to see each other during that time, but it was awkward. Too many eyes, too much tension. His last day was mid-September. We said goodbye in the parking lot. He said, "We could try, you know? Like, actually try. Dating for real." I wanted to say yes. Part of me really did. But another part of me knew the truth. What we had was built on secrecy and adrenaline and those stolen moments in a storage room. I said, "Let's see." He said, "I'll call you." And he did. We went out twice. Once for drinks in Winwood, once for dinner in Coconut Grove. Both times were nice. He was a gentleman. We talked, we laughed, but something was missing. That electricity, that urgency. The third time we were supposed to meet, I cancelled. He texted asking why. I told him the truth. This doesn't feel the same. He didn't respond for a while. Then he wrote, quote 41. We tried once more. After that, met for coffee. Talked for an hour. Both of us dancing around the same realization. We didn't actually have much in common outside of that gym, outside of that storage room. We were two people who had incredible physical chemistry and not much else. He said, "So I guess this is it." I said, "I guess so." We hugged. It was friendly, warm, but there was no spark, no pull. He walked away. I watched him go, and that was the end of it. I switched gyms a month later Too many memories in that place. Every time I walked past the equipment storage room, I'd remember his hands, his voice, the way he looked at me in that dim light. I'm still single now, still doing real estate here in Miami, still working out, though I don't have a trainer anymore. I think about Marcus sometimes. Wonder where he ended up, if he's training someone else, if he ever thinks about me. I wonder if he ever tells anyone about those 4 months. Probably not. Some things are meant to stay secret. Here's what I learned from all of it. Sometimes the most intense connections are the ones that can't survive in daylight. What Marcos and I had was real. It was powerful. But it belonged in that storage room in those stolen hours after closing time. The moment we tried to make it something else, something normal, it fell apart. And maybe that's okay. Maybe some things are meant to burn bright and fast and then fade. Maybe that's what makes them special. I don't regret it. Not for a second. Those 4 months taught me something about myself. That I could be bold. That I could take what I wanted. That I could be desired in a way that was raw and honest and uncomplicated. Was it smart? Probably not. Was it worth it? Absolutely. Would I do it again? I don't know. Maybe. If the right person, the right situation, the right storage room came along. But I'll tell you this, every time I drive past that gym in Brickell, I smile. Because I know something nobody else knows. I know what happened in that equipment storage room after closing time. And some secrets are just too good to share.